Hello, hello. My name is Johnny. I'm here with the legend Manisha. She is a mom, a teacher, and she's an activist with Moms Across America, trying to make our food safer and standing up against some of the tyranny of our medicine. Welcome, Manisha. How you doing today?
Hi, Johnny. Good morning. I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for inviting me here.
Yeah, of course. My pleasure. I know you were up in DC doing some lobbying work with Moms Across America recently. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, to begin with, I just want to say that Zen is in my prayers. It's extremely sad what happened. Um, yes, and talking about the Capitol, we moms across America, we women, we were at the Capitol a couple of weeks back. We were lobbying for, making our individual states MAHA. We have a lot of literature and facts about how the current pesticides, chemicals, and foods are present in our foods today, which is very very harmful. Our kids are getting sick every day, and some of these chemicals, especially 4,000 of them, have never ever even been tested for safety. They were approved under an emergency situation, but they are being still used. It's been more than 12 years. They are still being used. They are present in our foods, and not only in our foods, but also in our household and daily products that we use. So we are bound to be exposed to a lot of toxic chemicals and get sick each day.
Yeah, it's wild. You talk about pesticides to begin with. 85 pesticides banned in other countries that we allow that our kids are eating. The precautionary principle, it makes so much sense when you're thinking about a novel chemical. Um, so many of these things are just completely unnatural, and we don't know how they interact with us. And yeah, it seems in our country we're just letting industry have their way again and again. And
Absolutely. Most of these chemicals are banned in many other countries, especially like Europe, Brazil, so many other countries. And these are they it has been shown that at least 78% of these chemicals are known to cause infertility, sterility, birth defects, even reproductive harm. And 86.7% of the glyphosate manufacturers, they originate in China. I can share this with you and your viewers. We have a lot of literature here, and these are just facts and numbers based on our research. And what are we doing? We are paying countries abroad to make our people infertile and have birth defects in our children. That's terrible.
it's crazy, we're allowing, and you mentioned China. So this is ChemChina, which is owned by China. So this is literally China who is, yeah, like for paraquat is banned in 70 countries, including China. And they're selling it to us. And right now they want a liability shield so that they can't get taken to court concerning harms from these chemicals. So this is just crazy. We were talking about how this is unconstitutional.
This
This
is
is against our First Amendment right to get our grievances addressed, Fifth Amendment right to due process. Um, China wants our rights to stand up for what matters most. Absolutely wild.
Yes, and this liability shield, we all believe this is bipartisan, that it blocks our basic rights to get our, and it gives a lot of protection to the companies. I mean, look at what happened with COVID vaccination. And now there's a lot of data coming out. I have my own personal experience. Last August, I experienced severe case of myocarditis. I've had zero, by the grace of God, zero chronic health issues. I'm very a clean lifestyle pro kind of person. I have a very clean exercise schedule, eating schedule, and yet out of nowhere, I had a severe case of myocarditis. I was in the ICU for 12 days, and the doctors believed that I wouldn't have survived. And they were surprised, absolutely surprised, that I was able to survive and undergo a lot of aggressive medical measures to, be alive today. And the
Wow,
doctors
I'm so glad
believe,
you're feeling better. Go ahead.
thank you so much. And the doctors believe that my cardiologist believes that it was the vaccination side effect. And many, many health coaches and many people around me who have a lot of education in health and science believe the same.
Yeah, this is one thing that the new Pfizer shots, the new mRNA technology has been shown to do. These lipid nanoparticles, it was supposed to just stay in the arm. That was the whole idea, but it gets all over the body and the spike protein, and yeah, it really affects the heart because the heart, it's always working, so it doesn't have time to heal itself. So, when people it's crazy that these shots are still going on. A recent study, I don't know if you saw it, this last week came out of Japan with 18 million people that were studied, and it
Mm-hmm.
showed that all of the excess deaths were in the vaccinated group, and it showed how there was just this perfect line where, yeah, on average, about 100 days from the vaccination, people were having, these huge issues. So yeah, I'm so glad you're feeling better. That's 12 days in ICU. That's a long time. Oh my gosh.
Yes. And it was extremely traumatic. I believe I was in coma for 5 days. I have no idea what happened. Apparently, underwent 6 hour surgery during that period, which I don't know about. My husband tells me about it later. I also had to be helicoptered since the hospital that I was taken to did not have the required technology to be able to help me survive. So they had to immediately um, airlift me to another hospital. And I have no idea these things have happened with me because I was unconscious this whole time.
Wow. Unbelievable. Yeah. So,
Hmm.
for the VAERS reports, so this is our system. You would think that if we were doing this kind of experimental technology, this is nothing like any other vaccine, right? It's a first in a new paradigm, mRNA technology, where now we are kind of hacking the DNA processes of our cells. Um, you would think we would have all of this, studies going on this. How is this working? These s- safety studies that we had before they came out were very, very limited. Usually it takes 10 plus years to make a vaccine, and but we don't really have anything special. We should have all of these studies going on for what's going on. Instead, what we do have is the VAERS report, which is a passive surveillance system where doctors can report, issues. I'd be curious to know if your doctor reported your case to this VAERS system, because the VAERS system, you know, studies show, like a Harvard study estimated that about, it underreports what's going on by, 31 fold. So different reports say, maybe 100-fold. And right now we have almost 40,000 deaths have been reported to have come after these shots. And so, 31 fold that, it would be, over a million Americans have died from these shots. That's what the VAERS data indicates. So absolutely wild. These shots are still on the market. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's
And
because there's a liability shield, like you say. That's why.
and so many deaths suddenly have been reported amongst healthy 30s, 40 something athletes, celebrities. But I wonder, why is it not on the mainstream media? I truly wonder. Is it because it doesn't fit a certain narrative?
That's exactly what it is. I didn't know this until recently, but up to 70% of the nightly news budget can be coming from big pharma. So big pharma is paying, not really so much to sell pills there, but they're selling what they're pushing is they've got narrative control, right? There's not going to be, expose on the nightly news about big pharma, or there's going to be phone calls. They're going to pull that funding. So yeah, we've got industry totally capturing our journalism. Journalism is so important when it comes to having a democratic society. How can we get accurate representation if we're not an informed people? So yeah, just another facet that we need to challenge and set right, don't we?
Absolutely. And which is why I strongly believe the liability shield should not be given to these organizations. We need to protect our people. We need to protect our children. That's our future. As an adult, I can still make good choices. I can cook my own food. I can make healthier choices outside. I can have the willpower to say no to so many things. However, when a child goes out of the house, there's a phrase, it takes a village to raise a child. A mom cannot do it alone, a dad cannot do, family, we need a setting outside the family too, a healthier setting. When we send our children to school, we want to trust that place to be sacred, to be safe. But these toxins in their food doesn't make a mom like me happy. And I have a lot of mom friends, or I mean, we all do have friends, and we may have a lot of disagreements on so many issues out there today in the world. However, this is one thing we all agree on, and I can speak this on behalf of any mom I can meet, that we want healthier foods for our kids.
Absolutely. The kids are the most vulnerable, right? Their systems aren't as mature to kind of detoxify against some of these chemicals. And yeah, this is something that an attitude I encounter sometimes is some people say, "Oh, you just need to buy organic and that solves it." And it's like, well, we're drowning in toxicity, right? You talk about school, or you talk about even the kids that go to a birthday party, or extracurricular activity, and then you have our bread in America. We spray it with glyphosate at harvest, so we're spraying just before we're getting ready to process it and eat it, we're spraying it with these poisons. And this is so crazy. Just imagine like a muffin for a or a cupcake for a birthday, and it has this glyphosate in it, which just very small amounts, very tiny amounts, can cause all sorts of issues. So
In fact, I mean, you're absolutely right. In fact, to add to that point, we moms across America tested toxins in food, and there's a summary that I have. This talks about USA conventional and organic children's breakfast cereals. We have found that there is glyphosate in these organic breakfast cereals too. For example, over 90% of popular American cereal brands have been tested positive for glyphosate residue. 6 out of 7 certified organic US cereal samples tested positive for glyphosate. Organic cereals like Cashy and Cascadian Farms had the highest level of glyphosate, up to 35 times the level caused harm in lab studies. Even Girl Scout cookies, our little girls going out to sell these cookies, and we
yeah, the
buy
Girl Scout cookies. Yeah, that's such a shame. I remember hearing about that. Not only glyphosate, but yeah, heavy metals. And yeah,
a lot.
it's such a shame that you know some organic products have been found to have this in it. This is part of the issue, right? Is that the overspray of a neighbor using it can get onto your crops. And what's worse, maybe even, is that it can tie up the nutrients. So glyphosate, the way it works is that it's a heavy metal chelator, right? You can use it to clean the rust off your pipes. And so what it does is it binds very tightly to our zinc, our magnesium, our manganese, uh, in our body, but also in the soil. So now these minerals aren't bioavailable, and they're not going to be in the plants and the produce that we're eating. And just the overspray from the neighbor can cause this. So just 1% of what your neighbor might be spraying getting onto your field is able to cause this. And yeah, this is why Americans, 70% of us, we have magnesium deficiencies, and our food, it's not nearly as nutrient dense as it used to be. You got to eat 7 carrots now these days to get the nutrition of 1 carrot not too long ago. So
It's true, Johnny. It's very sad. When I see these Girl Scout cookies and I want to buy it because, I want to be nice to them, but I have to be the bad cop here. I'm like, no, I'm not buying this for my daughter. And I would discourage the other girls too to not. They have a lot of cadmium that exceed EPA limits in water. They have 5 heavy toxic metals. They were positive. 24 out of 25 of the samples of these Girl Scout cookies were positive for lead. And
wow,
you and this is shocking that it's also there in baby formula. 100%.
absolutely.
Yeah, 100% of the 40 samples tested contained aluminum and lead baby formula. And I have a lot more data if you would like me to share it.
Yeah, I'll put that in the comments below, some of that those resources. Yeah, the where are these heavy metals coming from? People would ask, and I think a lot of it is coming from this they're using sewage sludge, in our fields now to grow our food, right? So to compost manure and to use that to grow crops, that's one thing. But what they're doing is they're using the sewage sludge from the water treatment plants, which is a lot more than just manure. Which it'd be nice if we weren't using human manure to begin with. This didn't used to be allowed, but now they're actually pushing this. And so, yeah, this is a great time to be heard about this issue. Uh, there's a section 507 in our House legislation right now where we can be
Mhm.
heard about this issue. They're trying to put off any regulation about this issue. There's a new report that came out, and they want to kind of silence it, squash it from having any impact. Not just heavy metals are found in the wastewater this way, but these forever chemicals, PFOAs. So this report really has to do with those. These forever chemicals, our body can't detoxify them. That's why they're called forever chemicals. So they just accumulate in our bloodstream. They go round and round and round, and they have all sort of different health effects, such as cancers. So yeah, this is a big issue as well. So
Yes, absolutely. You're right. Um, and when these kids get exposed to these heavy metals and the high levels of sugar in the food, the ultra processed, they're not able to focus and concentrate. And then, as a society, I believe we just want to call them an ADHD child or special needs, and put them again on other kind of pharmaceutical products, medications, which I have a dog, and every time I take my dog to the veterinarian, they, every time my dog is sick, the vet asks, "What did you feed him?" And I wonder, why do the doctors not ask the parents the same thing when a child is sick? On top of it, the loaded vaccination schedule, and then the kind of food, every birthday, every party, like you said, outside of home, there is no place. I mean, one birthday party, if I want to organize, there is no food. There's no real food. It's only ultra processed junk food. A school has ultra processed junk food. Where can a child get nourishment? And if the child is sick, we load the child with Tylenol, Benadryl. This is a recipe for disaster.
yeah, absolutely. All of these medicines, right? They're petroleum based. I don't know if any petroleum derivative is a good idea and safe for us to use. Yeah, it's such a great point. What did the dog eat? What are we eating? Right? That's such a great question. Um,
Ever since I switched my entire lifestyle to organic food, by the grace of God, ever since I've not had any chronic issue. Of course, I had the myocarditis out of nowhere, which there was no diagnosis, and it's been believed that it's the side effect of the jab, which I was skeptical. But I was skeptical only because I wanted more information, not because I was anti-vaccination. I just, as a critical thinker, I wanted more information about what's in the vaccine, what are the long-term effects. I just had a few questions, but the kind of push at the time was unbearable.
Absolutely, it really was. And there was such censorship. So you couldn't hear both sides of the issue. You couldn't go and hear, people having, Facebook shut down a group of, I think it was over 100,000 people who had been injured by the vaccine, right? So how crazy is that? So these people are having a really hard time, and they're helping one another, giving them moral support and telling what's working, and Facebook shuts them down. It's like
That that's
unbelievable.
anti-American. I mean, like, how can there is no hate speech there? There is no negativity there, but people have a perspective or have questions about things. How can that be censored? That is so anti-American.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. Yeah, we've got to stand up against these challenges we face, because things seem to be getting worse and worse. It seems that, they were able to do this with this vaccine, this mRNA tech, because this is something that's been happening with the kids' schedule. So a lot of people don't know, but back in 1986, um, Pfizer went to Congress, hat in hand. They said, we're losing too many billions of dollars for harming children, and we have to quit making vaccines. And by their own words, they said making vaccines is unavoidably unsafe. And so but they said, in the interest of public health, we need to, move our liability onto the government. So now the government is paying out. There's a special vaccine court for when kids are injured. And it's paid out billions of dollars. This is but what has also happened is the vaccine schedule for kids has exploded. It's gone up 5x, 6x, depending on how you look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And so these are for treatments that are unavoidably unsafe. And there's no liability for the drug companies, right? So if a vaccine harms a lot of people and so many dollars are paid out of the vaccine court, it's coming out of our tax dollars. There's no downside liability. There's only upside for them. And they have just a massive market. These drugs get put on the vaccine schedule, and it's just like, well, hey, look at all these millions and millions of kids this is going to get recommended to, and they don't need to do any marketing, and just have a captured. It's so wild that we could think that injecting babies and toddlers, the most vulnerable, with aluminum and all of these just crazy things that are found in vaccines, preservatives and stabilizers, could be healthy, and that's exactly what we see. So yeah, these liability shields, they're a suspension of our constitutional rights, and now we see them coming after us for Big Ag is doing this. Big Ag wants this for our pesticides. You mentioned all these chemicals. This is going to cover 1,200 chemicals under FIFRA. This is Section 453, so it's a great time to call Congress about this one.
That's right. I totally agree with you, Johnny. In fact, if I can share another story of mine, if that's all right with you and your viewers, that about the baby formula. When I was in the hospital and I delivered my baby, it wasn't even 10 hours past my baby was born that there was this huge push by the nurses to feed my daughter with baby formula. Now, I had these paperwork done before the delivery whether I would like to have baby formula or breast milk for my child, and I said strictly breast milk only. I remember check marking that. And I don't think that went very well with the nurses. And so they tried this huge pressure on me, giving me a lot of stigma and shame that my baby wasn't getting enough from me. And I resisted that. I resisted that a lot because I strongly believed in just, feeding my child with my milk. And I was very stressed at the hospital. I had a very negative experience that this push, they kept coming back, waking me and my baby up every now and then, although we were both perfectly healthy and fine. And then when I researched about this a little after, I realized that perhaps it was the baby formula push. And then it kind of gets addicted, it gets the baby used to on that, and it's it drifts the baby apart from the mother's milk naturally because it's a huge supply and demand. It's natural, it's organic. A mother and child, they need some time and then it happens. But this push, again, it's it's the push by the big corporate of baby formula.
Right, I've heard this. And then what can happen as well is that, because the mother's not giving the milk, then, she doesn't have the milk later to give. And then so this happens as well. And yeah, these baby formulas, right? They found with the heavy metals, I think like the first two ingredients are like what, corn syrup sometimes. It's just completely unnatural, like nothing that makes any sense you would want to give to a child.
Corn syrup for a newborn child? What are we doing? We don't need research. We just need common sense.
We need common sense, don't
We
we?
need common sense.
You're
We don't need
right.
research. This has been like what humans have been alive for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, and we've breast milk was the only way. It's a supply and demand. It's natural. There is no mother, I believe, who cannot unless there are health issues or separate. I'm talking about a healthy pregnancy and a healthy baby born. There's no reason that within 10 hours you get a child addicted on sugar, high fructose corn syrup, and these heavy metals. No, it's a disaster.
The more natural, the better. I see this principle kind of play out again and again and again. And yeah, it's just be natural. Just be natural. I think
Yeah.
that's something that we should be doing a lot more of for sure.
And if we need data, we have enough information to know that America is one of the sickest countries today. Our kids Every second kid, every third kid probably has either asthma, some kind of allergy, eczema. Where is this coming from? Should we not investigate and dig deeper as to why are kids getting sicker? I mean, imagine 50 years back, my grandmom compared to the generation that I'm seeing today. It's sad. I don't want to blame the children. It's the society. What are we doing? We can do better. We can do a lot better.
We can do so much better. Yeah, Americans now we're about the sickest country on the planet. We're spending 2 and 3 times what any other country is spending, and yeah, per person, it's impoverishing us, and it's ridiculous. What we have is big ag and big pharma running roughshod over our lives, over our liberties now, and yeah, enough is enough. We need to stand up about it. Guys, it's a great time to be heard. Congress has some real important legislation coming up about liability shields, about these topics. Section 453 for big ag. Thomas Massey, he introduced a bill to repeal the PrEP Act. So the PrEP Act gives the vaccines from COVID their protection. So, they're just completely protected. And this even covers things like Facebook, the way Facebook was censoring us, right? And then Congressman Gosar, he has legislation concerning the kids' vaccination schedule. If these products are safe, that's great. But let's not suspend rule of law. Let's not take away our constitutional rights. For the likes of these serial criminals, these are repeat criminals. The corporations that we're talking about here have the worst track record going back hundreds of years, or over 100 years for most of them. And yeah, they're not trustworthy, and we just see again and again. You think about the opioid crisis, what they did there, and
Yes.
heroin. We know heroin's addictive, right? I think about the most addictive thing on the planet, some would say. Okay, synthetic heroin, they told us for over a decade, not addictive, not addictive. The toll of that was absolutely tremendous. This is who we're talking about. They can't be trusted at all, let alone with a liability shield this way. So
Oh, absolutely. And the kind of health issues our kids are even the adults that we meet. For example, amongst men, there is a lot of testicular damage. There is central nervous system depression amongst people, respiratory arrest, DNA damage in testes, and reduced testes weight. Yeah, I can go on and on about the harmful
yeah, the
effects.
fertility issue. I think this is no. I'm glad you brought that up, because the fertility issue is something that I think appeals more to men and to conservatives. So maybe on the left, a lot of people are a little bit more aware that, listen, these issues are a big deal, and these are affecting our kids. And then, but on the right, maybe people don't really realize what a huge issue this is. And yeah, our fertility is being taken away. We're having a crisis where now men don't have the testosterone we should, women don't have the estrogen they should. Our kids' hormones, they're even more out of whack, right? And this whole agenda being pushed on them, is this a cover for all the poisons they're drowning in? Yeah, these and this is a national security threat. You want to be good on having a strong country. We can't let the likes of China take our rights to stand up for ourselves. This is core to being a free people, is to have rule of law and being able to hold criminals accountable. And we're suspending that for the worst of the worst criminals. That's who they are. So, yeah.
I totally
Any other
agree.
closing thoughts, Manisha? I'm so glad you joined me today. This is such an important conversation.
Thank you, Johnny. No, it was a pleasure. I shared, something that was very deep and sensitive for me. But thank you for putting it out there. And I'm just hoping that September school begins and my students, can have healthier food options. We need to do a better job.
Here, here. Yeah, we're heading in the right direction. Let's keep heading that way and get back to having healthier food, and then we can let the food be our medicine.